together, and I am so proud. Especially, I want to give a shout out to this young man coming in, Lucas, and to Hank Hutto. These guys are single and under the age of 30, and they have become active members of this church. They don't just sit in meetings, they speak up, they go. I want to thank Pastor Kathy for putting me in this position because she's also made me an active member, and I want to thank Peggy for all of her guidance. First off, I have been doing some homework this week, and I just want to tell you about the United Methodist Church, and then I'm going to hand this over. These doors have always been open to anyone who wanted to come worship here. In the past few years, there have been, I know of, 2 openly gay women who came in. They were members of this church. They held offices in this church. We have loved them. They are people. We have not put them down for any reason. I know for a fact because this church was filled when my cousin died. But there are currently 2 openly gay bishops that have been elected by the United Methodist Church. This is not just an LBGT movement, it is now LGBTIQ+. Bishop Karen Oliveto told CBS News, this was her quote, "So there's a whole segment of the church that's leaving because they don't want to be an inclusive church. They're building a church based on who they are leaving out." She never presents in that interview that the Book of Discipline was in place 50 years before she was elected, and she never says in that interview that the inclusive church is trying to change the existing one. If we condone this thought process, we are saying that it's okay for someone that doesn't identify as the way God made them to come into this church and to teach our children, our grandchildren, and our future generations that it's okay to go against God's plan because there's no longer any atonement. We begin process theology instead of traditional theology. All because, as Paul says in 2 Timothy, he's fallen in love with the present world. I have also done homework on apportionments for the South Carolina Conference only. It's a hard task because it's not readily available. You can't just say, where does my money go? For 2022, the South Carolina Conference first line item was conference benevolences. This is a discretionary fund that was allocated $2.3 million. That is 19% of the apportionment allotment. Their next line item is retiree health. This is not pension. This is after you're retired. That is 8% at $1 million. 41% of your apportionments, that's around $5 million, goes to administrative fees and cost. 32% went to the local church, which was mostly Senior College Scholarship Fund, Spartan Methodist College, and the Methodist Homes residents. It says nothing in here how this money went to local missions, where it did. I couldn't find it. Of course, I've had in this position a lot of older people come up to me and tell me about the trust clause. In 1968, I was told that they had a conference and they came back and they told the congregation, this is how it's going to be. Because of that, your property is held in trust for the use of the United Methodist Church. So in that, we're having to pay back the conference to get something back, the property back, the people of this community built. The conference hasn't given us a price to get out of the conference or out of the church, but it has mandated full payment to be wired by May 31st. Now, we don't have the price that it's going to cost, but I think it's around $200,000 is what we're leaning towards. So you have 2 months to raise $200,000. They want that money in the bank 2 weeks before they even vote to let us out of the church. So, with that, also know that we currently pay for our own reading materials, teaching materials, and Bible school materials. Peggy said in Sunday school this morning that they've just released where the money went for the churches that got the money from the discernment or the disaffiliation from other churches. As of the last meeting, I don't know of any churches in our area that received that closely. It wasn't mentioned. If it was, if it has been, it wasn't told to us. I just wanted you to know that about the United Methodist Church. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lisa. We're up here today, and it's going to be really quick, but I just wanted to kind of give everybody a little bit of background and an explanation for the Discernment Committee's recommendation to go independent versus global. So obviously, when we first started, we were kind of leaning towards the global aspect. One of the main reasons is we felt like we needed that support, and especially finding a pastor. Well, there's been some development since that, and we've been fortunate enough to, there's a strong probability that our next pastor will be our current district superintendent, Reverend Joey McDonald. So that's one of the main reasons why we thought, okay, now we could look a lot harder at going independent versus going global. Another reason was the apportionments. If we go independent, we don't have to pay apportionments. And I don't have that exact figure. I think it's around $30-something thousand a year that we won't have to pay. Now, we can still use $30,000 a year to go towards missions that are important to our congregation, but it's not, we don't have to. The other thing, as we dug into it, we weren't really sure that it made sense to jump out of one contract and jump right back into another one. Yes, there's no trust clause with global, but there is a contract. Obviously, we could get out of it if we chose to, but I don't think the United Methodist Church thought they were going to be where they're at today 60 years ago either. So that was another reason. If we go independent, we can sustain ourselves. A lot of churches around here that have left have gone global, and I think the majority of that is because they need the backing. We have a congregation here that's much larger than most of those churches, so we can sustain ourselves as opposed to needing someone to fall back on like the Global Methodist. Also, and kind of lastly, if this doesn't work out, if independent does not work out, and 6 months down the road, we decide we need that backing from a certain denomination, we can always join the Global Methodist. So that was kind of one of those things that it's always in our back pocket if we need it. But right now, with the major transition that we're making, we felt like independent was the right direction to go. That's all we've got. I guess now we want to take a vote by show of hands.
If you'll raise your hand, yea or nay, and leave it so we can count, that'd be appreciative. I'll tell everybody whenever you guys.
Okay, so those in favor of going independent, please raise your hand.
Oh, dear God.
Okay, those in favor of going global Methodist, raise your hands. I got you. You're good. If any members did not vote, would you like to have a recommendation, or do you wish to abstain? Okay. All right. As soon as Hank finishes tallying the whatever to 1, we'll know where we're going.
The best. God's kingdom.
Okay, so the total number was 132 for independent, 1 for global. Going forward, as of July 1st, we will be St. George Methodist Church, and we will be an independent church.
Okay, now here's where you come in. We will very soon start, we're having to divide councils here. We laid that forth with the last meeting. You have a United Methodist Church Council. They also voted to have a St. George Methodist Church conference or council. I invite all of you to come and be an active part of this because it's our church. It's not just a few people planning this thing. Thanks.
Okay, that's all I've got. So the donation box here, it's a big box. So and again, we still have to operate as St. George United Methodist Church until the end of June. So we can't just quit donations to St. George United Methodist Church, but we also can start to St. George Methodist Church, and these funds will go towards the disaffiliation amount that we owe, and hopefully we'll have that amount in letter format by April, the middle of April. So, okay, and the funds that go into the box will either go through the church, or you can go over across the street to First Citizens Bank and see Maggie about that. So, that's okay.